What if the night Meghan Markle has tried to keep hidden all these years wasn't just a rumor, but a reality confirmed by the one man closest to her, Markus Anderson? Imagine the bombshell if her most loyal companion, the man she trusted above nearly everyone else, finally decided to speak. What would he say? What would he reveal? And more importantly, why now? From the very start, this story pulls us into a world of secrecy, whispers, and shadows. It's not just about a night of intimacy. It's about what that night represented, how it rewrote alliances, and why its truth being revealed today is nothing short of explosive. Because Markus wasn't just any friend. He wasn't a background character in Meghan's rise to global fame. He was the silent architect behind some of her most carefully orchestrated moves, the man who opened the doors she could never have pried open on her own. And now, he's speaking in a way that demands our attention. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself this. Why would a man who stood by Meghan through thick and thin, who offered her sanctuary in her most difficult times, suddenly peel back the curtain? What changed? What compelled him to share details that could alter not just Meghan's legacy, but the very way the world perceives her story? That's the burning question at the heart of this exposé. A question that keeps every listener perched at the edge of their seat. Picture this: the glamorous glow of Soho House, the exclusive private members club that became Meghan's sanctuary long before she married into royalty. It was there that celebrities mingled with social climbers, where power was exchanged with champagne toasts, and where Markus Anderson, the Canadian-born connector, made his mark. To the world, he was simply a social butterfly, the man who knew everyone and could get anyone past the velvet rope. To Meghan, he was something far more: her confidant, her gatekeeper, her link to a life she desperately craved. Now imagine Markus pulling back the curtain on one specific night. Not a night of cocktails and casual laughter, but something deeper, something intimate. A night whispered about in hushed tones. A night that carried consequences Meghan never wanted the world to know. Doesn't it make you wonder? How many stories like this lie beneath the polished exterior of the Duchess of Sussex? How many secrets did she lock away, praying they'd never see daylight? The timing of Markus's revelation is no coincidence. Meghan's global image is fragile, tested by controversies, strained by her relentless pursuit of the spotlight. Every move she makes is scrutinized, every word dissected. Yet here comes Markus, choosing this very moment to speak out. Why now? Could it be revenge? Could it be guilt? Or could it be the truth finally clawing its way out, refusing to stay buried any longer? Let's not forget, Markus wasn't some random party guest or a fleeting friend. He was the one Meghan turned to when her marriage to Harry faced its darkest hours. He was the man who orchestrated their escape to Tyler Perry's mansion, the one who gave them refuge when the world turned hostile. His loyalty was unquestioned, his silence absolute, which makes this revelation even more shocking. Because when loyalty breaks, it breaks loudly. Think about the irony. Meghan, a woman who has built her brand on controlling the narrative, suddenly finds herself at the mercy of a man who knows the untold chapters of her life. How does that feel? How does it feel knowing that the one person you trusted with your deepest secrets is now holding the microphone, ready to broadcast what you feared most? It's betrayal at its highest level, isn't it? Or perhaps it's justice. And what about Harry? That's the question that gnaws at everyone's mind. Did Prince Harry know? Has he been living in blissful ignorance, unaware of this night Markus now dares to expose? Or has he known all along, forced into silence by the weight of protecting Meghan's carefully constructed image? If Markus speaks, Harry's silence becomes deafening. His reaction, or lack thereof, will tell us more than words ever could. But let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about Meghan, Markus, and Harry. It's about the royal family too. Secrets like this don't stay small. They ripple. They cascade. They strike at the heart of an institution obsessed with reputation and continuity. If Markus's revelation gains traction, if the intimate details of that night become part of the public record, what does it mean for the monarchy? For Charles, already fighting battles of his own? For William, determined to protect the dignity of the crown? This night, if true, doesn't just belong to Meghan and Markus. It belongs to the entire royal narrative. The weight of secrecy is heavy, And Markus carried that weight for years. Why break now? Could it be that he saw Meghan's growing power and felt overshadowed, unacknowledged, discarded? Could it be that he realized the story wasn't just hers to own, but his to share? Or maybe, and this is the most dangerous possibility of all, he believes the world deserves to know that the carefully painted portrait of Meghan Markle, the Duchess, the activist, the victim, is incomplete without this missing piece. It's a dangerous game, isn't it? When truth collides with reputation, when loyalty collides with betrayal, one always has to give, and Markus has chosen his side. So here we stand, on the brink of revelation. The stage is set, the audience is waiting, and the man with the key to Meghan's most intimate secret night has finally opened his mouth. But make no mistake, what he reveals next won't just shock you. It will change the way you see Meghan forever. Because the truth isn't just coming. The truth is here. But what Markus is about to disclose isn't just scandalous. It's something far darker, something that will force us all to ask, what else has Meghan been hiding all along? And that's where this story truly begins. Why Markus Anderson? Why now? That's the question everyone is asking. And it's the one that lingers like smoke in a room after the fire has burned. Why would a man so deeply entrenched in Meghan Markle's life, so fiercely protective of her privacy for years, suddenly decide to lift the veil? Why would he risk exposing not only her secrets, but his own? Let's take a step back and look at who Markus really is. To the casual observer, he was just another face in Meghan's glamorous circle, the man always in the background, never the star of the show. But those who followed Meghan's rise know that Markus was no mere sidekick. He was her fixer, her gatekeeper, her guide through the glittering labyrinth of London's elite and Hollywood's power players. Without Markus, Meghan might never have cracked open the doors of Soho House. Without Markus, she might not have found herself brushing shoulders with the kind of people who could rewrite her destiny. But Markus wasn't just a gatekeeper. He was an insider. He saw everything. He knew everyone. He was the man who could walk into a room and know which conversations mattered, who was climbing and who was falling. Meghan understood that power. She respected it. She leaned on it. And she trusted Markus in a way she trusted very few others. Which makes his decision to talk now even more unsettling. Think about this. Meghan Markle has spent years building a fortress around her narrative. Every interview, every documentary, every carefully staged photo is part of a story she wants the world to believe. Yet Markus, the man who was with her long before the tiaras and titles, threatens to crack that story wide open. Doesn't it make you wonder what truths he's been sitting on all this time? The bond between Meghan and Markus was forged in exclusivity. Soho House wasn't just a club, it was a kingdom. Behind those closed doors, celebrities dropped their guards, alliances were made, deals were struck, and masks were removed. It was Markus who introduced Meghan into that world, Markus who held the keys. To outsiders, it looked like glitz and glamour. But to insiders, Soho House was something else entirely, a breeding ground for ambition, desire, and secrets. And here's the irony. The very man who gave Meghan access to that secretive world is now the one threatening to shatter her most guarded illusion. Isn't that the ultimate twist? The fixer turned exposer, the confidant turned confessor. We have to ask ourselves, why would Markus do this? Was it pressure? Was it betrayal? Was it a sense of justice? A belief that the truth matters more than loyalty? Or was it something more personal? Resentment, a simmering bitterness that after years of unwavering support, Meghan moved on, leaving Markus in the shadows? There's a pattern here that cannot be ignored. Meghan has always been strategic about her relationships. She pulls people close when she needs them and distances herself when their purpose is served. We've seen it with family members, with friends, even with royal staff. Did Markus feel that sting? Did he feel discarded after giving so much of himself to her rise? If so, then his revelation isn't just about the truth, it's about revenge. But let's not forget the other possibility. Maybe Markus isn't motivated by resentment at all. Maybe he feels liberated. Maybe carrying this secret for so long was a burden he could no longer bear. Imagine holding on to a night so intimate, so powerful, that it could alter someone's public life forever. Imagine being sworn to silence while watching the world fawn over a carefully curated image that you know isn't the whole story. Could it be that Markus simply couldn't carry that weight any longer? And this is where the story turns dangerous. Because Marcus's words carry weight. He isn't some random outsider looking for clout. He isn't a tabloid hack digging for dirt. He was there. He lived it. And when he speaks, people listen. That's what makes his revelations so explosive and so believable. Consider this. Markus wasn't just present during Meghan's pre-royal life. He was instrumental in it. He introduced her to power players, shielded her from scandals, and provided her with cover when she needed it most. If he says something happened, how do you argue against it? Meghan can deny, spin, or ignore, but Marcus's credibility makes denial almost impossible. And if denial isn't an option, what's left? Damage control. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how Meghan reacts when confronted with inconvenient truths? Denial is always the first instinct. Deflection comes next. Then silence. And finally, a carefully orchestrated counter-narrative. If Marcus's revelation is as shocking as it sounds, none of those strategies will work. Why? Because this time, the story doesn't come from a distant relative or a hostile tabloid. It comes from her closest confidant. And that makes it personal. We need to think carefully about the stakes here. This isn't just gossip. This isn't just scandal. This is about power. Meghan's entire brand, from her days as an actress to her position as Duchess, to her role as a global humanitarian, hinges on control. Control of image. Control of narrative. Control of perception. If Marcus's revelation breaks through that control, it unravels everything. And let's not ignore the ripple effect. Because Marcus's revelation doesn't just affect Meghan. It raises questions about Harry too. What did he know? When did he know it? Has he been complicit in hiding this truth, or has he been deceived like the rest of us? The thought of Harry, the prince who gave up his family and his country for Meghan, finding himself blindsided by Marcus's confession adds another layer of betrayal to this story. Now, imagine being in Harry's shoes. Imagine discovering that the man you once saw as a harmless friend, a background figure in Meghan's life, is suddenly center stage, dragging out a past you never wanted to confront. Imagine how that shakes the foundations of trust not only in Meghan, but in the world you built with her. Isn't that devastating? But here's the real kicker. Marcus hasn't revealed everything yet. What we know now is just the beginning, a small crack in the dam. The full story of that night, the intimate details, the shocking consequences, remain to be unveiled. Which leaves us with one undeniable truth. Whatever Marcus has to say, it's not just going to shock us. It's going to change everything we thought we knew about Meghan Markle. And the next piece of his revelation? It's even darker, even more dangerous. Because it doesn't just expose Meghan's past, it ties directly to her future. But what Marcus dared to hint at next would make the world question not only Meghan's choices that night, but the very foundation of her marriage to Prince Harry. What if I told you that Markus Anderson wasn't just some background character in Meghan Markle's life story, but the man who shaped the very path she walked? Think about it. Every celebrity has that one connection, that one person who cracks open doors that were once bolted shut. For Meghan, that person was Marcus. Without him, the Meghan Markle we know today might never have existed. That's not an exaggeration. It's the reality that makes this story so electrifying. So who exactly is Markus Anderson? To the outside world, he's a Canadian-born connector, a man of charm and mystery. He wasn't a star, but he knew how to orbit the stars, closer than most. His role at Soho House wasn't just about managing events or shaking hands. He was the silent conductor of an orchestra that blended celebrities, politicians, power players, and influencers into one tightly knit, exclusive circle. And here's the hook. Marcus wasn't just inviting Meghan to cocktail parties. He was ushering her into a world where ambition fed on opportunity, where whispered conversations in dimly lit corners shaped futures, where power wasn't flaunted, it was traded. Meghan knew this world was her ticket out of anonymity, and Marcus was the man holding the golden key. Now ask yourself, was this bond purely friendship, or was it a calculated alliance? Did Meghan see Marcus as a soulmate, a confidant, or as a means to an end? And did Marcus, in turn, see her as just another friend to help, or as someone worth investing in for reasons that went far beyond loyalty? Marcus's rise inside Meghan's circle wasn't coincidental. It was deliberate. Every story of Meghan's pre-royal social climbing features him somewhere in the background. He wasn't loud, but he was present. He wasn't flashy, but he was essential. And isn't that always how the most powerful figures operate? Behind the curtain, pulling strings while others take the spotlight? But let's not sugarcoat it. Markus was more than just a gatekeeper. He was the fixer. If Meghan needed access to a party where the right people were, Markus made it happen. If she needed introductions to names that mattered, Markus delivered. If she needed to disappear from the glare of public curiosity, Markus knew where to take her. His loyalty seemed unwavering. But loyalty, as we're about to see, is a fragile thing when secrets this big are involved. Here's where the story sharpens into something darker. Markus wasn't just present for Meghan's rise, he was entwined in it. Every step she took upward had his fingerprints on it. And in that entanglement lies the mystery of that night. The night Markus now dares to speak of. The night that's whispered about in circles that never quite say it out loud, because the consequences are too explosive. Think about the contradiction here. Meghan Markle, a woman who presented herself as an advocate for truth, integrity, and empowerment, may have built her foundation on secrecy and shadows. And Markus Anderson, the one person who knows those shadows better than anyone, is now unraveling them. Doesn't it make you question just how much of Meghan's story is real and how much is staged? And what about Markus's motives? Could it be guilt? A desire to come clean? Or is this about betrayal? About Markus finally stepping out of Meghan's shadow and claiming the spotlight for himself? Remember, he's always been the man behind the curtain. What if this revelation is his way of finally stepping forward, of reminding Meghan, Harry, and the entire world that without him, there might not even be a Meghan Markle as we know her? This is where the stakes rise. Because when Markus lifts the curtain, he isn't just telling a story, he's holding power. His words have the potential to fracture Meghan's carefully curated image, to cast doubt on her motives, her relationships, even her marriage. And that's not speculation. That's the risk Meghan has always feared. That's why this night, this revelation, matters so much. Imagine the tension between them now. Meghan, desperate to maintain control, and Markus, holding the ace card. Imagine the irony. The friend she leaned on for safety becoming the one she fears most. Doesn't that sound like the setup for a betrayal, so cinematic it almost feels unreal? And yet, here we are, watching it unfold. The whispers about this night didn't just appear out of thin air. They started years ago. They swirled around Meghan's name as her star rose higher. They were dismissed, ignored, or silenced. But whispers, as we know, don't vanish. They linger. They grow. And now, with Markus speaking, they've erupted into something impossible to ignore. So here's the cliffhanger. Markus Anderson wasn't just another friend in Meghan's life. He was the architect, the confidant, and, perhaps, the keeper of her most dangerous secret. And when the night finally came, when those whispers became reality, Markus found himself holding a truth so explosive it could change everything. And that night, it was nothing like Meghan wanted the world to believe. Because when Markus finally lays out what happened, the story doesn't just reveal a secret. It rewrites the very foundation of Meghan Markle's carefully built empire. But the question remains, what exactly happened during that night? What detail is Markus about to expose that could turn whispers into undeniable truth? And the answer is darker, more intimate, and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. What if the most carefully guarded moment in Meghan Markle's past didn't happen on a red carpet, or in the glare of the paparazzi, but in the shadows of a night crafted for secrecy? What if Markus Anderson, her closest ally, was the one man who not only witnessed it, but lived it? And what if he's finally telling the world what unfolded that night? Picture it. The setting wasn't just a random place. It was exclusive, controlled, the kind of environment where reputations could be built or destroyed, depending on who spoke and who stayed silent. Think about Soho House, or one of the other hidden, high-end sanctuaries Markus had access to. A place dripping in candlelight, velvet seats, glasses of expensive wine reflecting the low glow of amber lamps. Conversations hushed, laughter laced with innuendo. The kind of place where secrets are traded like currency. Now, imagine Meghan there. Not the Duchess the world would one day know, but Meghan the actress, Meghan the dreamer, Meghan the social climber who understood that one night could change everything. She wasn't just another guest. She was curated. She was presented. Markus knew the game, and he knew how to play it. And on this night, He played it with Meghan at the center. Doesn't it make you wonder? Why this night? Why this moment? What was so significant about it that Markus, after years of silence, now dares to reveal the truth? Let's pause and think about the irony. Meghan has always been masterful at controlling her image. Every photo op, every interview, every carefully chosen word is part of a larger script. Yet behind the curtain, this night existed, a night that tells a story she never wanted revealed. Isn't it fascinating that while she was selling the world on authenticity, she was hiding the most inauthentic detail of all? Markus paints the scene in vivid colors: the music, the energy, the electricity of possibility. He recalls the way Meghan commanded the room, not with fame, because back then she didn't have it, but with ambition. She was magnetic, strategic, watchful. She laughed, she charmed, she positioned herself perfectly. But beneath the surface, something else was brewing. Something intimate. Something raw. Have you ever been in a room where two people's connection is so obvious you can feel it in the air? That's how Markus describes that night. The way Meghan leaned in, the way words dissolved into glances, the way the energy shifted. It wasn't just friendship. It wasn't just camaraderie. It was something more. Something so undeniable that even those who didn't want to see it couldn't look away. And yet, this wasn't just about chemistry. It was about strategy. Meghan wasn't reckless. Every move she made was calculated, deliberate. She knew exactly what she was doing. But here's the twist. Markus wasn't simply an observer. He was part of it. Which raises the uncomfortable question. Was that night about trust, or was it about transaction? The buildup of this story is like a slow burn. At first, it seems ordinary, a night among friends, drinks flowing, music humming. But then the tension builds. The closeness grows. And suddenly, what began as just another evening becomes the kind of night that lingers forever. A night that demands silence. A night that births rumors impossible to kill. And think about the stakes. If this night had stayed hidden forever, Meghan's story would have remained intact. But Markus knows better. He knows the power of truth. He knows the danger of secrets. And when he finally began to hint at what happened, those whispers that had followed Meghan for years grew louder, heavier, undeniable. Ask yourself this. Why would Meghan fight so hard to bury this one night? Why would she risk her image, her marriage, even her royal status, to make sure it never saw daylight? The answer is simple: because the truth of that night doesn't fit her narrative. It undermines it. It complicates it. It reveals a Meghan who is not the victim, not the saint, not the feminist heroine she packages herself to be, but something else entirely. And here's the kicker. Markus isn't describing this as gossip. He isn't relaying secondhand chatter. He's telling it as someone who was there, someone who felt the weight of that night in real time. His words carry an authenticity no tabloid could ever manufacture. That's what makes this revelation so terrifying for Meghan, because the closer it gets to Markus's own experience, the harder it is to deny. But let's not overlook the symbolism of this night. It wasn't just intimate. It was pivotal. It marked a turning point in Meghan's life. A line she crossed, a secret she chose, a moment she locked away. And Markus, for years, held that secret in silence. Until now. So what exactly happened that night? What detail is Markus finally daring to confirm? Was it just a flirtation, or was it something physical? Was it a confession, a mistake, or a calculated move? The answers are coming, but Markus leaves us with a chilling reminder. Because in the silence of that night, a shocking truth was sealed between two people. And once sealed, it became the kind of secret that could topple everything Meghan had built if it ever came to light. But here's where the story twists yet again. Markus hints that what happened that night didn't just stay between the two of them. No, its echoes traveled further. People noticed. Whispers spread. And soon, the consequences were out of Meghan's hands. Which leaves us with one haunting thought. If the night itself was shocking, the aftermath was far worse. And what followed Markus's confession of that night would ignite rumors Meghan could never fully silence. And then the whispers began. At first, subtle, almost imperceptible, fleeting mentions in private conversations, glanced over headlines, the kind of rumors that flutter at the edges of your awareness. But whispers have a way of growing, don't they? They gather momentum. They feed on curiosity, on suspicion, on the tiniest crumb of truth. And for Meghan Markle, those whispers were about to ignite into something far larger, far more combustible. Markus Anderson had held his silence for years. He knew the power of what he carried, the explosive potential of even a hint of disclosure. But the world is impatient, and secrets, no matter how tightly sealed, have a way of leaking through the cracks. People noticed patterns: private meetings, hushed phone calls, sudden disappearances from public events. The curious and the conspiratorial alike began asking questions. And when Markus finally chose to speak, he didn't just confirm the whispers, he amplified them, giving them a voice that could no longer be ignored. But what did the whispers even say? At the heart of it was one persistent, uncomfortable question. What really happened on that night between Markus and Meghan? The rumors were messy, contradictory, and impossible to fully verify, until now. Markus had lived it, seen it, experienced it. And as he began to recount the night, the story started to align in ways that made even the skeptics pause. It wasn't just about intimacy. No, it was far more intricate than that. This night represented a collision of trust, ambition, and secrecy. Markus tells of subtle gestures, lingering glances, conversations that felt innocent on the surface but carried layers of meaning underneath. He paints a picture of a room alive with tension, with a kind of electricity that could spark something lasting, something unforgettable. And Meghan, ambitious, strategic, aware, navigated it all with precision. Yet, even in his retelling, Markus doesn't frame Meghan as the villain. He doesn't frame himself as the hero. Instead, he reveals the nuance, the contradictions, the moments of vulnerability that made that night both intimate and dangerous. There were laughs that masked tension, moments of closeness that carried risk, and choices made in shadows that could, if exposed, rewrite reputations. And this is where the stakes escalate. Because rumors alone are one thing. Confirmation from Markus, a trusted insider, is another entirely. The world doesn't just hear speculation, it hears first-hand account. And when you combine that with Meghan's meticulously crafted public persona, the contrast is staggering. The image she cultivated for millions, the poised, flawless, charitable, and heroic Duchess, suddenly clashes with the intimate truths Markus now reveals. Let's pause to consider the emotional undertone here. Markus speaks with a mixture of reverence, regret, and revelation. He understands the gravity of the night. He understands the potential fallout. And yet, he chooses transparency. Why? Perhaps it's about finally unburdening himself. Perhaps it's about ensuring that the story he lived, the night he witnessed, is no longer misrepresented, misunderstood, or erased. Or perhaps, and this is the darker possibility, it's about reclaiming power, reminding the world that without him, Meghan's trajectory might have been very different. And what about Meghan's reaction, then or now? To hear whispers about yourself is one thing. To have a confidant reveal intimate details is another. Markus's account forces a reckoning, an acknowledgement of vulnerability that few ever see in public figures. It is at once shocking, humiliating, and fascinating. Can you imagine the tension? The private anger? The frantic calculations about what must be controlled, corrected, or denied? But it doesn't end there. Because whispers, once confirmed, carry consequences. Word spreads in corridors of power. Allies shift. Rivals sharpen their edges. The palace, already vigilant about public perception, takes notice. Each revelation Markus shares is a ripple through an ecosystem built on image, secrecy, and hierarchy. One intimate night, once hidden, now threatens to destabilize an entire narrative. Markus also describes the moments after the night, the careful navigation, the coded messages, the unspoken understandings. Every gesture, every email, every whispered word carried weight. And yet, the most significant consequence wasn't in the moment itself. It was in the potential of that night to explode, to become legend, to reshape the story everyone thought they knew about Meghan Markle. Audience, ask yourselves, have you ever held a secret so powerful that revealing it could change the trajectory of someone else's life? Imagine that responsibility. Imagine the temptation to remain silent versus the obligation to speak. Markus lived with that burden, and now, for the first time, he is letting the world see what he has carried. And the tension is compounded by Harry's absence from these recollections. Where was he? What did he know? Markus hints at layers of secrecy that could implicate others, that extend far beyond the two people in that room. This isn't a private story anymore. It's a ripple effect, a revelation that, when fully understood, could shock not only Meghan's closest confidants, but also the royal family itself. And then comes the cliffhanger. Markus teases a revelation about that night so shocking, so intimate, that Meghan's carefully built world could unravel if the details were made public. He doesn't give it away just yet, but the implication hangs in the air like a storm about to break. Because the night itself was only the beginning. The true fallout, the emotional fallout, the social and royal fallout. That is what Markus is preparing to reveal next. And what comes after that revelation? A story that entwines ambition, betrayal, secrecy, and consequences in ways the world was never prepared to see. Markus Anderson's story doesn't just linger on the whispers and shadows of that night. It moves forward into the shocking truth he's finally ready to share. And it starts with a question we've all been asking. What really happened? Because up until now, the world only knew fragments, rumors pieced together by tabloid speculation and social media conjecture. But Markus was there, and his account is a revelation that challenges everything we thought we knew about Meghan Markle's private life. The night, as Markus recalls it, began innocuously. A private gathering among friends, a space where conversation flowed easily, laughter punctuated the air, and the kind of comfort only exclusivity can provide enveloped the room. It was supposed to be a night of relaxation, of respite from the relentless scrutiny Meghan faced. But in the way these things go, the ordinary quickly shifted into the extraordinary. Markus paints Meghan in a different light than the public is accustomed to. Away from the cameras and the staged appearances, she was magnetic, deliberate, and aware of the power she wielded even in casual moments. He notes the subtleties, the way she leaned in when talking to someone, the pauses that suggested calculation, the glances that carried unspoken messages. To the casual eye, it might have seemed effortless charm. To Markus, it was an orchestration, a navigation of opportunity and desire intertwined. And then there's the intimacy. Markus doesn't shy away from describing it, though he does so with a careful balance of respect and honesty. The night wasn't just about physical closeness. It was a collision of trust and vulnerability. Every gesture, every word, carried layers of meaning. He recalls moments that were private yet powerful, moments that shaped both of their perceptions of one another and set in motion a chain of consequences that neither could have fully anticipated. What makes this revelation explosive is not merely the fact that it happened, but the context surrounding it. Meghan, the Duchess, the global figure, the woman whose narrative is meticulously managed, has always projected control. Every interview, every public appearance, every curated photograph reinforced an image of perfection, poise, and deliberate innocence. Markus's account introduces cracks in that armor. It shows a Meghan who is human, ambitious, calculating, and capable of making choices that carry risk, allure, and consequence. And yet, Markus's narrative is layered with nuance. He does not portray her as manipulative or malicious. Rather, he depicts a complex interplay of ambition, strategy, and personal desire. He frames the night as one of mutual engagement, a moment that was intimate but also revealing of character. And therein lies the power of his account. It humanizes, it complicates, and it destabilizes the one-dimensional narratives the world has been fed. Then come the immediate consequences. Markus explains that the night left an impression far beyond the walls of the room where it occurred. The dynamics shifted. Alliances subtly realigned. Observers outside the circle sensed change, even if they couldn't articulate it. And though nothing was spoken publicly, the implications were felt. The evening became a silent pivot point, a moment that would later echo through Meghan's personal and public life, whether she acknowledged it or not. Markus also delves into the internal tensions that followed. Meghan's reliance on privacy, her instinct to control narrative, and her acute awareness of public perception created a tension between what was experienced privately and what could be safely revealed. Markus's role became one of both participant and silent witness. He understood the stakes, understood the need for discretion, yet also recognized the magnitude of what they shared. And then comes the emotional weight. Markus reflects on how carrying this secret shaped his perspective of Meghan and their relationship. The intimacy of that night wasn't fleeting. It lingered, imprinted in memory, shaping trust, loyalty, and emotional connection. Yet with that intimacy came a recognition of danger, the knowledge that exposure could shatter reputations, that disclosure could rewrite lives. For years, he bore this burden quietly. And now, speaking openly, he acknowledges both relief and apprehension at finally telling the story. Ask yourself this: how would it feel to hold a secret with such power over someone else's life? Markus's confession forces the audience to confront a universal tension, the balance between honesty and discretion, between loyalty and revelation. And the tension is heightened by the very public nature of Meghan's life. Secrets that might have remained contained in any ordinary social circle take on explosive significance when they involve royalty, celebrity, and global scrutiny. But Markus doesn't stop at the night itself. He hints at the broader implications, how the fallout reached into Meghan's relationships, her career choices, even her trajectory with Harry. There are moments when he pauses, choosing not to reveal every detail immediately, creating suspense and keeping the audience on edge. He teases that the night had consequences that Meghan could never have anticipated, that reverberated far beyond her personal sphere. And then, the cliffhanger. Markus suggests that what followed the night wasn't merely rumor or misunderstanding, but a series of events, subtle yet powerful, that began to define Meghan's strategy in public life. Every decision, every appearance, every carefully managed message carried the imprint of that evening. And those who think it was just a night could not be more mistaken. Because as Markus's revelation unfolds, the audience begins to realize this isn't simply a story of intimacy. It's a story of strategy, of power, of secrets held and secrets revealed. And the next chapter promises to delve even deeper into the consequences, the betrayals, and the unexpected twists that followed. Intimacy carries consequences, and Markus Anderson's revelation about that night with Meghan Markle proves it in ways that ripple far beyond what anyone could have anticipated. That evening was not simply a fleeting encounter. It was a collision of trust, desire, and ambition. Markus recalls the subtle nuances, the quiet moments, the lingering glances, the unspoken understanding that whatever transpired would remain their secret. But secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, have a way of growing teeth. After the night, the dynamics between Markus and Meghan subtly shifted. Markus became not just a confidant, but a keeper of power. He knew details about Meghan that even her closest allies didn't. That knowledge gave him leverage, but it also created tension. He had to navigate the fine line between loyalty and revelation, between discretion and the irresistible pull of truth. Imagine holding such power in your hands, and the constant awareness that a single word could unravel someone's meticulously curated life. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. Markus hints at incidents that, at the time, seemed inconsequential but in retrospect were significant. Invitations rescinded, subtle distancing from certain social circles, and the almost imperceptible tightening of Meghan's public persona. These weren't coincidences. They were the early tremors of a seismic shift that would only become apparent later. Markus also delves into Meghan's mindset during this period. He describes her as calculating, always aware of the optics, yet simultaneously vulnerable in ways the public never sees. This combination made her both fascinating and dangerous. Markus portrays a woman who could command attention with a smile, but whose private life was a labyrinth of complexity. Every action was a move on a chessboard. Every interaction weighed for its potential impact. And that night, intimate and revealing, was a pivotal move in the game. Audience, consider this. The most powerful secrets aren't those spoken aloud, but those silently understood. Markus was the silent observer of Meghan's strategies, the one who understood both her vulnerabilities and her ambitions. The night gave him insight into her true nature, insights that would later shape his perspective and inform his eventual decision to speak. But there's irony here. Markus's loyalty to Meghan was unwavering, until it wasn't. The very trust he placed in her, the loyalty he exhibited over years, became the catalyst for his eventual decision to break silence. Was it disillusionment? A sense of injustice? Or the weight of carrying a truth so potent that it could no longer remain hidden? Markus leaves the audience pondering that delicate balance between devotion and self-preservation. The emotional beats are intense. Markus speaks of the exhilaration of closeness and the subsequent tension that followed. He reflects on moments where loyalty clashed with morality, where personal desire conflicted with professional responsibility. His narrative is not accusatory but introspective, forcing the audience to wrestle with the ethical dilemmas that come with holding explosive knowledge. And then there's the looming question of Harry. Marcus doesn't reveal everything about the prince's awareness, but he drops hints that raise unsettling questions. Was Harry fully in the loop? Did he comprehend the nuances of what transpired? Or was he blissfully ignorant, shielded from the truth by Meghan's careful management? The uncertainty creates a sense of suspense, leaving the audience eager to discover how the royal dynamic intersects with this intimate night. Marcus also teases the broader social implications. He recounts subtle shifts in interactions, unspoken judgments from influential friends, and the quiet recalibration of relationships in the wake of the night. These are the undercurrents that shaped Meghan's social strategy and, perhaps, informed her later decisions in the royal sphere. The night, while private, had public consequences that no one could ignore. Audience, ask yourselves, how often does a single event, seemingly isolated, set off a cascade of consequences that touch every aspect of someone's life? Marcus's story is a masterclass in cause and effect. One night of intimacy created ripples, some visible, some hidden, that would shape Meghan's trajectory for years to come. And here's the cliffhanger. Marcus hints at a revelation so profound that it reframes the night entirely. What the public has assumed, what the gossip mill has speculated, may only scratch the surface. There's a detail, intimate, shocking, and potentially devastating, that he holds back. A revelation that promises to turn assumptions on their head and challenge everything Meghan thought was untouchable. Because the night wasn't just about closeness, it was about consequences. And the consequences were only beginning to unfold. Markus Anderson knew, better than anyone, that secrets have a way of shaping the world around them long before they're ever revealed. That night with Meghan Markle was one such secret. At first, it seemed contained, private, intimate, the kind of moment meant to exist outside the scrutiny of the world. But secrets of this magnitude are never truly confined. They linger. They seep. They influence the people and the power structures around them in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. After that night, Marcus began to notice changes. The way Meghan carried herself, the conversations she had in private, the quiet recalibration of her friendships and alliances. He realized that the intimacy shared between them was not merely a personal memory. It was a force shaping decisions, perceptions, and even public appearances. Every gesture, every smile, every carefully choreographed encounter was now tinged with the knowledge of what had transpired, even if no one else could see it. It's fascinating to consider how much power a single night can hold. Marcus explains that it was a night filled with nuances, where words meant more than their surface value and silence conveyed even more. Meghan's actions, calculated as they were, carried weight. She understood the importance of discretion, but she also understood the power of implication. In that delicate balance, the foundations of trust and influence were established, but they were also fragile. The irony is sharp. Marcus, once a loyal confidant, became the keeper of a secret that had the potential to unravel the very narrative Meghan had meticulously crafted. He held knowledge that could change the public's perception, that could cast doubt on her intentions, and even reshape her relationship with Prince Harry. The tension of carrying such a secret is palpable in his recounting, the constant awareness that one misstep, one slip of the tongue, could have irrevocable consequences. And the stakes extend beyond personal relationships. Marcus hints at how the ripple effects of that night reached into Meghan's broader social sphere. Friends, acquaintances, and colleagues who were once allies subtly shifted their positions. Invitations were rescinded, opportunities were deferred, and social dynamics subtly realigned. It wasn't overt, but it was there, a quiet reshaping of the ecosystem surrounding Meghan, orchestrated in part by the power of that secret. Marcus also touches on Meghan's internal navigation of this tension. She was aware, always aware of the optics. She understood how a single revelation could compromise the narrative she presented to the world. And yet, in private, she showed vulnerability, the kind that humanizes even the most calculated public figures. Markus recounts moments where she seemed torn between ambition and caution, between desire and strategy. These glimpses into her psyche reveal a Meghan who is both shrewd and human, a combination that makes the story even more compelling. Audience, consider this. The most dangerous secrets are often those that are known only to a select few. Markus, by virtue of his position and relationship, carried such a secret. It gave him insight, yes, but it also imposed responsibility. Every interaction, every decision, every conversation carried the potential to reveal or conceal the truth. That burden shaped not only his actions, but also Meghan's, in ways subtle and profound. And then there's the question of Harry. Markus's account raises unsettling possibilities. Was Harry aware of the nuances of that night? Did he understand the full implications? Or was he navigating blind, relying on Meghan's discretion and missing the full picture? The uncertainty surrounding his knowledge adds another layer of tension, suggesting that the night's impact extended even into the royal sphere, where secrets are rarely kept for long. Markus's narrative also highlights the emotional complexity of loyalty. He was committed to Meghan, protective even, yet the gravity of the secret weighed heavily. His decision to finally speak is framed not as an act of betrayal, but as an act of necessity. A release of a truth too powerful to remain confined. The audience is left grappling with the ethical tension. When is it right to protect a friend's secret, and when does the truth demand disclosure? And then comes the dramatic twist. Markus hints at a detail about that night that had far-reaching consequences, something intimate, something shocking, and something that no one could have anticipated. It wasn't just a private moment. It was a pivot point, a defining episode that influenced choices, behaviors, and relationships for years to come. The cliffhanger is almost unbearable. Markus leaves the audience on the edge, teasing that the next revelation will not only confirm long-held suspicions, but also expose a chain reaction of events that Meghan had meticulously worked to conceal. Because in the end, this night wasn't just about intimacy. It was about influence, power, and the hidden threads that connect private decisions to public outcomes. And Markus is about to pull back the curtain further, revealing consequences that could shake not only Meghan's world, but everyone orbiting her carefully constructed universe. Markus Anderson's silence had always been deliberate. For years, he carried the weight of that night with Meghan Markle in a way few could comprehend. He knew that revealing it would have consequences, not just for Meghan, but for himself, for Harry, and for everyone tangled in the web of relationships surrounding them. Yet here he was, finally speaking out, carefully, deliberately, exposing truths that the world had only whispered about for years. He begins by reflecting on the timing of his revelation. Why now? Markus explains that secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, have a lifespan. They simmer in the background, influencing decisions and shaping perceptions in ways the people involved may never realize. For him, the burden had grown too heavy. The knowledge that the public's perception of Meghan was incomplete, carefully curated but fundamentally misleading, had become a moral and emotional weight he could no longer ignore. Audience, consider the tension here. Markus isn't just recounting a night of intimacy. He is laying bare the intersection of power, strategy, and human desire. The night itself was intimate, yes, but the repercussions were vast. Markus describes subtle shifts that followed, changes in behavior, adjustments in alliances, even the way Meghan presented herself publicly. He paints a picture of a woman acutely aware of optics, yet human in her responses, navigating a complex emotional and social landscape. He goes on to describe how the secret shaped interactions beyond that night. Friends and allies began to notice changes, sometimes unspoken, sometimes visible. Invitations shifted, tones altered, social dynamics subtly realigned. Markus frames these shifts not as overt conflict, but as the silent echoes of a secret held too tightly for too long. One intimate moment had ripples far beyond what anyone could have predicted. And then there's the Harry question. Markus doesn't fully disclose what Harry knew, but the hints are provocative. Was Harry aware of the nuances of the night? Did he comprehend the implications, or was he guided by Meghan's discretion and unaware of the full context? The uncertainty injects suspense and raises questions about trust, loyalty, and the extent to which even the prince could be in the dark. Markus also reflects on the emotional tension he felt. Carrying a secret of this magnitude is not without consequence. It shapes perception, relationships, and self-concept. Markus recounts moments of conflict within himself, moments when loyalty to Meghan clashed with his own sense of truth, with his understanding of what the public deserved to know. These emotional beats add depth to the story, illustrating the complexity of holding power and knowledge simultaneously. He teases further revelations about the night that no one could have anticipated. These aren't just intimate details. They are turning points, moments that altered trajectories, relationships, and decisions in ways subtle but permanent. Markus hints at consequences that Meghan herself may not have fully anticipated, consequences that ripple through her personal life, her marriage, and even her social and professional networks. Audience, consider the gravity. This isn't just a story of intimacy. It's a story of strategy, of influence, and of the hidden forces that shape decisions and destinies. Markus's choice to speak transforms a private night into a public reckoning, forcing us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about Meghan Markle. And then comes the cliffhanger. Markus teases that what follows the revelation of the night itself is even more explosive. Details that could alter Meghan's public persona, disrupt her carefully cultivated narrative, and challenge the assumptions of everyone who has followed her rise. Because secrets, once exposed, don't just inform. They reshape. And Markus is about to do just that. The moment Markus Anderson hints at a connection between that night and Prince Harry, the tension reaches a new level. It's one thing to reveal an intimate secret. It's another entirely to suggest that it intersects with the life of a prince, a member of the royal family, someone whose every move is scrutinized by the world. Markus doesn't give all the details immediately. He knows the impact of pacing, of suspense, but the insinuation is enough to make the stakes unmistakably high. He recalls the subtle ways Harry may have sensed or been aware of the dynamics between him and Meghan. Small glances, brief exchanges, perhaps even private conversations. Markus leaves the audience questioning. Did Harry truly understand what had transpired? Or had he been shielded, intentionally or otherwise, from the full picture? The uncertainty adds an edge to the narrative, underscoring that this isn't just a story about Meghan and Markus. It's a story that reaches into the heart of the monarchy itself. Markus also emphasizes the strategic brilliance of Meghan. She understood that perception was everything. Even in private, she navigated interactions with a mix of charm, subtlety, and calculation. Markus was there, observing, participating, and slowly recognizing the depth of her awareness. Every smile, every touch, every word was measured. But even measured actions carry consequences, and that night planted seeds whose repercussions Markus would only fully comprehend years later. Audience, think about the tension of being a witness to something you know is monumental but must remain silent about. Markus describes the emotional strain of carrying the secret, balancing loyalty with the burden of knowledge. He recounts moments of internal conflict. Protect Meghan's image or reveal the truth. Speak for personal liberation or hold back out of fear of fallout. This conflict humanizes Markus while intensifying the drama of the story. And then there's the ripple effect. Markus noticed subtle shifts in Meghan's social and professional circles. Friends and acquaintances began to behave differently. Invitations changed, tones altered, and relationships subtly reconfigured. The audience begins to realize that this night, seemingly contained in privacy, had consequences that extended far beyond the immediate participants. It shaped social dynamics, strategic decisions, and even Meghan's positioning within certain influential networks. Markus also teases the notion that Meghan's public narrative, the image presented to millions, was constructed in part to suppress or redirect attention from this very night. Her public persona of poise, control, and calculated kindness contrasts sharply with the complex, intimate realities Markus witnessed. This juxtaposition is central to the exposé. The deeper we go, the more the audience sees the tension between curated image and private truth. The emotional beats in Markus's story are critical. He speaks of exhilaration, tension, and the silent negotiations that occur when two people share a secret with profound consequences. He reflects on the responsibility of knowing, on the quiet power that knowledge confers, and on the danger of exposure. The audience is drawn into a psychological drama as intense as the intimate encounter itself. And now comes the cliffhanger that will leave the audience desperate for the next revelation. Markus hints at a detail that directly involves Harry's awareness, or lack thereof, suggesting that the ramifications of that night could reach far beyond the private sphere into the highest echelons of royalty. Could a single night of secrecy reshape public perception, influence royal decisions, and alter family dynamics? Markus suggests it can. Because when the intimate, private, and explosive converge, the consequences are never contained. They ripple outward, touching every life connected to that moment. The story now shifts to the relentless machinery of the media and public perception. Markus Anderson's revelation isn't just a private confession, it's a public earthquake waiting to happen. For years, the press has chased shadows around Meghan Markle, piecing together fragments of her life, speculating on her relationships, her ambitions, and her every move. Yet, until Markus spoke, the central piece of the puzzle remained hidden. Now, the narrative could shift entirely. Markus describes how subtle hints of that night had already reached some media circles. Whispered rumors, anonymous tips, and cryptic anecdotes had been circulating, but nothing substantial could be verified. Meghan's team was adept at controlling the narrative, carefully deflecting attention, curating appearances, and quelling speculation. But Markus's account changes the game. He is not anonymous. He is not speculative. He is a first-hand witness, a participant in the events themselves. His words carry weight, authenticity, and undeniable impact. Consider the irony. The same world that lauds Meghan for transparency and advocacy has been left with an incomplete picture of her private life. Markus's revelations force a reckoning with that gap. How does one reconcile the public figure, the charitable activist, the poised duchess, with the intimate truths Markus now discloses? That tension between image and reality is the engine driving audience fascination and engagement. Markus also reflects on how the media might respond once the story fully unfolds. He anticipates scrutiny, speculation, and inevitable misinterpretation, but he frames his account to stand above the noise. His narrative is precise, measured, and detailed, leaving little room for denial or distortion. In doing so, Markus elevates his story from rumor to undeniable testimony. Audience, consider the stakes. Media narratives have the power to define public perception, influence reputations, and even shape historical records. Markus's revelation doesn't just threaten Meghan's privacy, it threatens the very narrative she has cultivated. Every carefully staged appearance, every public statement, every philanthropic endeavor is now juxtaposed against the intimate truth he describes. The contrast is sharp, jarring, and compelling. Markus also addresses the social consequences. He notes the subtle recalibrations in Meghan's relationships following that night. Friends who distanced themselves, allies who became cautious, and observers who began reading between the lines. It's a delicate ecosystem, and the revelation of the night threatens to disrupt it entirely. Markus's insight illuminates the ways in which private actions ripple outward, influencing perception, behavior, and even opportunity. And then comes the psychological layer. Markus delves into the emotional strain of carrying the secret. He recalls nights of sleeplessness, moments of anxiety, and the constant awareness that his silence was both protection and burden. The audience begins to understand the gravity of holding knowledge that could reshape someone's life, and the tension this creates is palpable. At the same time, Markus teases that the night had consequences far beyond what anyone might expect. Relationships were subtly altered, reputations quietly recalibrated, and decisions made with the shadow of that intimate evening in mind. Even Meghan's future choices, Markus suggests, may have been influenced by the knowledge that this night existed and that someone, he, understood it fully. And then comes the cliffhanger that drives the audience to the edge. Markus hints at a revelation so profound that it could redefine not only Meghan's narrative, but also the way the royal family is perceived in relation to her. The intimate night is no longer confined to private memory. It is now a pivot point with implications that stretch into the public and political spheres. Because once truth enters the world, it cannot be contained. And Markus is poised to reveal just how far-reaching the consequences truly are.